Hey there, Internet. My name's Luxander, and today we are going to be talking about Arielle Scarcella. I made a response video to one of Arielle's videos with Jacqueline Glenn several years ago. I'll put a link up here for you if you're interested in checking that out. It's been a minute since I talked about Arielle, and it has come to my attention that she has made another video specifically about non-binary people. I have not watched the video yet. This video is going to be me having my raw reaction to Arielle's video. Real quick before I get started, I do want to sort of introduce myself, especially if any of Arielle's audience is gracing me with their presence. Hello and welcome. I am a transgender, non-binary person. I'm about to turn 27, and I came out when I was 15 years old, so I've been out as trans for over a decade. My gender expression and stuff have changed over time, but I have been internally aware and consistent about my non-binary identity for basically 12 years this summer. For further cred, even though I don't think that I should need to, I will disclose that I have medically transitioned. I am currently on hormone replacement therapy, and I do have plans currently to potentially get surgery in the future. Surgeries are very expensive, you understand. Despite knowing that we have some pretty big differences, I do want you all to know that I intend to listen to this video while I watch it. I do have a preconceived idea of what Arielle's positions are, because I have covered this before, and I don't think that her position has changed much, but I do want to take her current position at face value as best I can, and just try to give you my honest response as someone in the representative group. You know, if she is going to talk about non-binary people, I think it's only fair for non-binary people to have a voice and be able to address the things that she says. However, I do expect this to be a somewhat upsetting video, which is why we're going for cozy aesthetic. Also, I had to turn off one of my 2 space heaters in order to get a decent audio recording, which is not going to happen because cats. But here we are, cozy in our blankets, with our hats and our wool socks, and a little bit of coffee to get things going and keep us sane. So I guess without further ado, let us switch scenes. Alright, let's get started with this.
Morning, babes and babe lovers. So today's topic is non-binary, and as a member of the LGBT community, this comes up in conversations an awful lot, and I have never fully expressed what I think of non-binary, if it's even a thing, if it isn't a thing. First of all,
I'm sorry, but she did. Maybe she doesn't remember, but the record shows, to be clear, the video is not on Arielle's channel, so I could see why she might forget. But in her video with Jacqueline Glenn that she made like 4 years ago, she was not open to the idea, I will say.
Don't think that anyone in the non-binary community even can fully explain what non-binary is. It seems like it's this made-up term that anybody can use for whatever reason they want.
I'm not male, I'm not female, I'm somewhere floating around in there.
Wait, so you're a girl? You're a trans woman? But you're also non-binary?
Love Riley Dennis.
How is that possible?
I don't get it.
I think that non-binary is actually a new woke way of saying androgynous, just like wielding a sword of wokeness.
Okay, so I am pausing there. She thinks that non-binary is a word that people use to say that they want to dress androgynously. I wonder if that's going to be her big conflation in this video, that gender identity and gender expression, have this like fuzzy thing going on. It kind of makes sense that in a very binary structured society, that gender expression is one of the primary languages that we use to tell people how we want them to address and perceive us. I would say that probably as one person, I'm a pretty good representative example of the different ways in which a person can be non-binary and choose to use different gender expressions. There was a time when I was, pretty early in my transition where I almost went back into the closet. I knew that I was trans, and I didn't stop saying that I was genderqueer is my specific label that I've used this entire time, but I did dress very femininely. And there have been times in my transition where I dressed extremely masculinely because I'm trying to not get misgendered in a way that I don't like or whatever. And now I do feel a little bit more comfortable with androgynous styling. I did not used to be a person who wears makeup. I'm kind of tinkering around with it now because I was a goth emo kid in high school, and I'm exploring that again, right? So my point is that non-binary people are not necessarily androgynous, And there are a lot of non-binary people who do present themselves in a fairly binary fashion, either because they are not interested in dealing with the social consequences of transitioning, so they just stick with their assigned expression, or you have people who like pursue a very binary looking medical transition and end up looking like a cisgender person of the opposite assigned sex, but they're still non-binary, right? There are plenty of non-binary folks who don't dress androgynously, and it is actually like a thing that we try to advocate for. We try to teach people there is no one way to look non-binary. There is not one look for non-binary people. It's not a barrier for entry. You have to be this androgynous in order to be non-binary, or that dressing androgynous necessarily means that you are non-binary, because gender non-conforming people still exist.
The new term for validation purposes, for pronouns, for control.
Don't identify with having a gender because I found it really restrictive.
It gives me the freedom to express myself. If I wake up one day and I want to spike my hair and do punk rock makeup, I can do it.
So clothes, makeup, the way they speak, the way they act, whatever. And that's one of the reasons I haven't made a video on this topic. No one has really been able to come up with a concise definition for the term non-binary.
Switching scenes, not something I'm used to doing in videos. So there's a very good reason why there isn't a set definition for non-binary, and that's because it is an extremely wide umbrella term. A binary has been presented to us, and that includes a number of things. It includes our gender expression, it includes the way that we want our body to look, it includes how people address us. Like, it's complicated, and it's set up in this binary dichotomy. If you don't conform to both of those, that doesn't necessarily make you non-binary. Again, in terms of your gender expression, there are butch lesbians. Butch lesbians have existed for fucking ever, okay? There are effeminate gay men. There are these examples of extreme gender nonconformity that exist within the cisgender population, right? Materially, from the outside, there might not appear to be much difference between a butch lesbian and a transmasculine non-binary person who was assigned female at birth. Like, you might look at those people, they might date very similar people, they might behave very similarly. The difference is that their brain structures are different, basically. My position is that everything that happens in your brain is coming from a physical place, so transgender people have a neurological difference of some kind. We haven't identified it. I don't really want to or care. From my perspective, it's pretty obvious that it is something deep in your brain that cannot be conversion therapied away, right? So there is something in the brain of a non-binary person which makes them deeply, on a fundamental, not reachable level, that they know that they're not one of these two things. Like, there is no way to go in and scoop out that feeling that you do not fit, right? And I will also throw some street cred out there that I tried to be a gender non-conforming version of both binary genders. You know, I tried to do a lot of different types of expression with my assigned gender before I realized that I could just scrap it. And when I was exploring myself, I did explore at first the other binary option before realizing that there was no way for me to go about doing that and still feel like I am a whole person. That is the thing. You just don't feel like you're really there until you realize that you're non-binary and then work from that position, and then from there I can dress however I want and I don't feel any type of way. For a lot of non-binary people, yes, shedding the binary is partially about shedding the binary expected expressions and all that stuff, but it goes deeper than that. Just because that's what you witness doesn't mean that that's necessarily what's the whole picture, right? A transgender woman may overperform femininity for her safety, for comfort, for any number of reasons, and, you know, Arielle seems to be okay with that, but doesn't seem to be okay with non-binary people transitioning in the same way. As Natalie Wynn put it in one of her videos, part of being non-binary is learning the rules so that you can break them with your gender expression. A lot of non-binary people do explicitly go out of their way to appear in this non-normative fashion because we're trying to communicate, you know, you feel comfortable with X and set of characteristics over here and all these Y set of characteristics over here, and I'm going to mix them so that you specifically understand that my internal experience doesn't go in either of these boxes, okay? Gender expression is a form of communication and personal expression and happiness. People are sometimes going to misgender me when I wear makeup, but I wear makeup because I like it.
You define the labels don't define you. So you can bring your own definition to whatever label.
On my forehead or something.
Yeah.
And secondly, most of the people I know or that I have seen that identify as non-binary are A, very, very young, and B, tend to seem like they are doing it for a very, very political reason, almost like a fuck you to the patriarchy or fuck you for telling me how I should think and act.
Non-binary people don't owe you shit. They can use whatever pronouns they see fit. If they dress femme or masc, don't worry about it, cause it's not your fucking bitch.
Which is funny because you're actually
Okay, I'm sorry. That was adorable. That was adorable. Thank you for that TikTok, Arielle. God.
telling people and telling the world that you are taking yourself out of a box by putting yourself in another box. One of the questions I have...
That's so silly to me. Okay, I maybe I didn't finish really hammering this home when I was responding to her last thing, but like, non-binary means like any person whose internal sense of gender doesn't fit exclusively into like, here's the man category and here's the woman category, okay? But just like there are so many different ways of being non-binary. Some non-binary people feel like I'm a mixture of girl and boy. Some people feel like I flow between girl and boy. Some people feel like I don't understand this presented dichotomy. I never did. I am something totally else. I never got it. Some people feel like no sense of gender whatsoever. They don't feel any attachment to their assigned gender. They don't want to transition to anything in particular. Like, some agender people do transition, but like what I'm saying is there is not like one way to be non-binary. There isn't one definition of being non-binary except that like you don't identify as a man or a woman exclusively and discreetly from each other, right? That is what it means to be non-binary. There's a reason that it doesn't have like one particular thing, because there are a number of words underneath that do give you more specificity. But I describe myself as non-binary on purpose because I don't want to get into the weeds, because it's none of your business, because it doesn't matter. It really shouldn't be this difficult to just like acknowledge and respect people. I wanted this video to be short. Her video is only 6.5 minutes long. It just takes so much time to refute people's wrong things.
For the non-binary community is there a difference between somebody that is actually non-binary and transsexual people? So transsexual meaning people that are born one sex and transitioning, even though you can't technically transition to another sex, but visually secondary sex characteristics trying to appear as the sex they feel more comfortable as. If non-binary simply means just the way that somebody feels or acts, isn't everybody inherently non-binary? You know, like everybody has more masculine and feminine traits somewhere in their head or their body or whatever. Even if it's not all the time, even if it's just sometimes. It's not normal to be perfectly binary, right? Everybody is kind of on the spectrum. If we're talking about feeling, thinking, and presenting. Because obviously we are...
Okay. Here, let me switch. Feeling, thinking, whatever. That's a very trivializing. Okay, so there isn't really a significant difference between non-binary and transsexuals, which is a gross term. She's not in the trans community, and I hate that she uses that word. There is not a huge difference because it is still fundamentally about you being assigned a gender that you violently cannot accept. Like, it is so deeply wrong that you cannot accept it. The only difference is, for a binary transgender person, they find home, safety, and comfort in the opposite binary gender. And non-binary people find health, safety, and comfort in being and accepting that they're non-binary and exploring their sense of expression from that position of knowing that they're non-binary. Functionally, there's not a lot of other difference. A lot of non-binary people go on hormones. A lot of non-binary people have surgeries. There is very little that distinguishes us between each other. I find it really difficult to address this feeling like, this thing that Arielle is addressing of like, isn't everybody a little non-binary? You know, not everybody feels blah, 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 blah. Okay, fair. Not every woman wants to put on pink and wear lipstick and wear high heels. You know, some women feel like that is diametrically opposed to how they want to present themselves to the world. I get that. That's fine. And that can also coexist with another person who is assigned female at birth, who is not into makeup and all that stuff, and on a deeper level, fundamentally cannot find a version of womanhood that makes them feel right about themselves. I don't know, like, I can't explain that to someone because that's what the condition is. The medical diagnosis, like, that is what the condition is that You try all these things, you try to make them work, and something is just not right. Something is just needling you. Something is under the surface. You look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, who is that person? Like, you hear yourself talk and you're like, It's really hard to explain if all you're basing it off of is like what you see other people do. There is a substantial difference between a gender nonconforming cis person and a non-binary person of any type, whether they're dressing feminine or masculine or androgynous. It doesn't matter. The difference is that you have this thing that's happening inside you. You don't know what to do about it until suddenly someone explains to you this particular thing, like, oh, non-binary people exist, this is a thing that you could be, and then people are like, oh shit, oh, that makes so much more sense. I can now go on a journey of self-exploration that includes this knowledge and actually makes things easier. It makes things click. Things make sense once you realize that you're non-binary and move forward with that. A cisgender person who doesn't experience this cannot really understand. All you can do is trust me, which I know you don't want to do.
You already know that sex is binary, sex meaning gametes, male, female, sperm, egg, simple, basic
It's not. Go look up ovotestes and get back to me.
stuff. No, intersex is not a third sex. And we know that gender dysphoria is also a real thing. It has been scientifically credited, right? So what does non-binary mean if it is a physical thing to some of these people? Like, does that mean having partial gender dysphoria? Like only...
No, it doesn't mean having... Okay, I'm doing that. Okay. I'm doing a reply guy thing right now. I'm trying not to. I'm trying to be nice. It's not. It's just not. I think the best way to explain this is to just acknowledge that for a lot of trans people, being cornered into your assigned sex, your assigned gender, is the big problem. And so it's not partial gender dysphoria. In fact, like, I would say that the dysphoria of being non-binary is probably higher on average because... like, a binary trans person can be like, ah, yes, okay, I was born this, but I'm actually that. Here's the steps I need to take to get social and legal recognition to do those things. Whereas non-binary people have the same issue with our assigned sex. Many times go through a period of time where we explore and we try to see if being the opposite would be functional, and then it's not. We don't exist in a society right now that broadly acknowledges non-binary people. For the most part, when people meet me in public, they're not going to reflexively use they/them pronouns. Like, no matter how much I desperately try to appear confusing, people are still going to make their guesses. The dysphoria of not having a social role to transition into is very shitty. It sucks a lot. And so I don't understand why... Does Arielle think that being non-binary is, like, half trans? What does she think of bisexuals?
Having dysphoria on part of your body. And if that was the case, I could get behind that because it is scientifically backed and it would make sense to me that if somebody came to me and told me, listen, I'm non-binary, I feel if I was fully male, meaning like flat chest, testosterone driven body, producing sperm, having a penis, I wouldn't feel comfortable, and I don't feel comfortable fully as a female either. As far as the law goes, I think that would be very tricky. I think it's becoming increasingly difficult to figure out how to treat non-binary people in the world because a lot of things are sex segregated or gender segregated or socially sex segregated. As I just said, I think if it is physically and biologically and gender dysphoria based, I can get behind the idea of non-binary, but if it is just something as simple as not fitting gender stereotypes,
It's not. It's not. It's so weird to me. We're about halfway through this video, and she just said, I'm okay with non-binary, which, by the way, can y'all stop fucking saying that? I don't make videos about non-binary. I make videos about being non-binary, about being a non-binary person, about non-binary issues. I don't make videos about trans. What the fuck does that mean? Anyway, she just said that she would accept an explanation that non-binary people have neurological gender dysphoria, and then, like, invalidates that immediately, basically, by being like, but I think all these people are actually just doing it for fun and to play dress up. Okay. Also, what would the fuck it matter what their reasoning is or their motivation? At a certain point, you just have to accept that people are going to do what they're going to do, right? And, like, it doesn't matter if you have a deep psychological pain about being gendered a certain way. If you just prefer to be gendered a different way, what the fuck is the problem with that? what is the purpose of making videos talking about how non-binary is sexist when you acknowledge in the video that there is a neurological aspect to it? You're just disregarding it completely. What is the deal, Arielle? I know that you're never gonna... Arielle, baby, girl, if you are watching this video, bless you, first of all. Second of all, like, I really hope that you do listen. You're not going to, but I hope that you do. Because this is silly. What you're doing is silly. Also, for any of my followers, my viewers are not welcome to go speak to her in any capacity. If I ever speak about someone on this channel, that is not an invitation for you to speak to them in any way, shape, or form. It does not matter how shitty you think they are. If you weren't already going to go watch her video and say mean things, don't do it on my behalf, because honestly, if I had a big enough problem with Arielle, she does not have me blocked on Twitter. I could go speak to her myself. That's not your job. Thank you very much.
Actually think that is an incredibly sexist idea. What do you guys think, though? Do you think non-binary is a real thing? Why or why not? If it is a real thing, or if it is something that you know could be a real thing, what do you think the definition of it should be? Yes, I am filming this on a different day because apparently I had a lot more to say than originally anticipated. One of the most important questions I have currently regarding non-binary is, why does being non-binary mean the erasure of female characteristics?
Nope. Okay. No, you know what? I'm gonna let her finish this.
Let me explain. Why is it that almost every single female-born person that calls themselves non-binary either goes on HRT, testosterone, or at least gets a double mastectomy, top surgery? When people who are born male identify as non-binary, usually only just change their gender expression, meaning they wear different clothes, they change their hair, they wear makeup. How often do you see someone that's male that identifies as non-binary getting boobs, getting a boob job, or going on HRT? Why does one sex feel like they have to make...
That's really weird. So I'm glad I let her continue, because that's not the direction that I thought she was going to go. I know a lot of AMAB non-binary people who go on hormones. Just because you don't know them doesn't mean they don't exist. I have discovered through conversations with people who I thought were trans women when I first met them, only to find out once they're more comfortable with me that they do actually identify as non-binary. Like, I'm a non-binary woman or something like that. There are more non-binary people than you think, because some trans people protect themselves by transitioning in this binary way. If it's close enough, if it's good enough to say, like, yeah, I'm a woman, that's fine, just call me she, her. As long as you're not calling me he, him, that's the goal. So I will accept being put in this category that's, like, not perfect for me, but is close enough. There are plenty of assigned male non-binary people who transition and get boob jobs and all that shit. And I know, like, plenty of AFAB assigned female non-binary people who don't do those things for various reasons. Lack of access, don't care about it, don't want it. Like, okay, you're allowing very few public examples to completely dominate what you think. And not, okay, hold on. She has not, in this video came out after Elliot Page came out as transgender. To my knowledge, Elliot has not started hormones. Like, that's her argument, is that every AFAB trans person, non-binary person, erases their feminine characteristics by going on HRT and getting hormones, where we have, like, this extremely public example of a trans person who just came out, who has not declared that they're going to do any transition, anything besides the social transition. You know, she brings up Jonathan Van Ness and Sam Smith, just not acknowledging that we don't have as many AFAB trans people in similar positions, not recognizing that this one very prevalent example is an example that defeats her argument completely. That's why she's ignoring it. She has to. This is fucking ludicrous. It gets harder and harder the longer you make an Arielle video to not do this, to not devolve. I try not to do reaction content that's mean like this.
Physical changes, but the other doesn't. My friend Chad said this really well, I think. Men are taught to decorate their bodies if they wish to express themselves outside of gender norms. Women must bind, hide, disguise, or physically remove their femaleness in order to accomplish the same. I think this really all comes down to...
There may be some kind of socialization aspect that goes into it. It may also be that it is deviations towards femininity that make people call you a woman, and so a person who is assigned female may feel the need to take more drastic measures of hiding their body in order to not be perceived that way. Whereas deviation from the masculine is much easier to do. It's much easier to deviate from the masculine because you can stuff a bra and wear a push-up bra and like have that perception be different. You can wear makeup, and that's a deviation that is extreme. So there is a possibility that because of the society that we live in, because of how people are perceived and stuff like that, deviation from femininity to masculinity is really hard to do. You know, women wearing pants, totally normal, not a problem. Men wearing skirts, still a very big issue, still not okay. People who are assigned male perhaps don't have to do as much in order to be correctly perceived by society. That is an interesting thing. It's a thoughtful thing, and she's not presenting it in a way that's like, oh, this is interesting and thoughtful. She's just being shitty.
How does one express being neither gender or neither sex? Is the presence of breasts much more obvious as a gender marker than the absence of them? Why are males that identify as non-binary only adding to themselves while females are removing parts of themselves? To me, that's
Have you never heard of phalloplasty? Necessarily, a person who has breasts and wants to be perceived more masculinely and who decides that surgery is right for them is going to be removing a part of their body. And a woman who goes on hormones is going to grow breasts. You know what else happens, though? Trans women get their penises functionally removed. Like, you know, there's a couple different methods of bottom surgery. Some of them use that material and some of them don't. And trans men have penises built. This is so short-sighted. This is ridiculously short-sighted and like so reductionist. How are you gonna say that like non-binary people who are assigned female are like discarding their female parts, like when you clearly understand that gender dysphoria is a thing? How can you in one video be like, I understand binary trans people have this like need to transition, but like non-binary people are just self-hating fucking misogynists? This is the point in the video where I stop being nice.
Suggests that the male body type is the default gender. Why is one sex more focused on gender expression, clothes, hair, makeup, while the other is more focused on physical changes, like I said before, testosterone, HRT?
You clearly spend no time in our communities. You clearly spend absolutely no time talking to us. Because like one of the big things within the community right now is that there are trans men who want to wear makeup. Like, I'm transmasculine, I'm wearing makeup. I'm very recently starting to get into this as a thing because it's really difficult to exist both in cis-het society, and within the trans community if you're gender nonconforming. But we do have conversations within the community about style. We do, in the trans masc community, care about adorning our bodies. And there are plenty of assigned male people who'd focus on their bodies also. This dichotomy that she's presenting is just evidentiarily based on ignorance. Like, she just isn't part of our communities. She's like logging into Tumblr to see that the teenagers are saying that bisexual is an inherently transphobic label, and doesn't think for a moment that like the whole community is more complicated than that there might be very specific reasons for people saying those things. Like she is taking the most surface level view of the community possible and extrapolating things about the whole group based on those observations. Yeah, Arielle, you don't know that many non-binary people because we don't want to fucking talk to you, and you clearly don't listen. I was trying to be nice in this video because I was like, if Arielle's viewers or if Arielle herself happens to see the video, I don't want them to reflexively turn me off. But my God, it would be so easy for her to understand. And this is why people think she's garbage, because she just doesn't care. She doesn't care. She's just a grifter.
Top surgery. Basically not being perceived as female at all. I'm gonna end the video on a very controversial note because I think my friend Chad, who identifies as non-binary by the way, makes a really good point. He said, in older generations, trans men adopted a variety of masculine looks that fit their personality and often worked to reach an ideal masculine physique. Which I agree, look at people like Buck Angel. But the current generation isn't doing that. Is anti-female now equal to teenage boy? Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna pause and leave this on the screen for a second. In older generations, trans men, it's not one word, by the way, this is a grammar lesson, another grammar lesson from Lux. Non-binary is not a noun, and trans men is not one word, it's two words. Trans is an adjective, And if you put them into one word like that, it makes trans men seem like alien. It's a different thing, when functionally they're just men who have a transgender experience, a history of being transgender. Okay, so in older generations, trans men adopted a variety of masculine looks that fit their personality and often worked to reach an ideal masculine physique. But the current generation isn't doing that. Is anti-female equals teenage boy? Why? So this is an interesting point. And now I will switch off so that you can see me. This seems like an observation you would make if you didn't spend any time talking to trans men or trans masculine people. So it's interesting. In older generations, trans men adopted a variety of masculine looks and often worked to reach an ideal masculine physique. And the example that she uses here is Buck. That's not a variety of masculine looks. That is the idealized masculine physique. In many ways, that is not authentic expression. A lot of trans men do this so that they can pass. It's performative. Many of them, I'm sure, are very happy that they have the big muscles. I understand and appreciate that. But the claim it's adopting a variety of masculine looks is ridiculous, because Buck Angel is not an example of a variety of masculine looks. That's the example of fully binary transition. Fully binary, hard mask for mask transition. But the current generation isn't doing that. Is anti-female equals teenage boy. Again, within the trans community, there is a reclamation happening where people who are assigned female, some of them are non-binary, some of them identify as trans men, are saying like, no, fuck you, I don't have to look masculine. If I want to wear makeup, I'm going to. If I want to wear skirts, I'm going to. And that doesn't make me any less of a man. You know, if Harry Styles can wear a dress and he's not less of a man, then I, a trans man, am not less of a man for wearing a dress either. We're not trying to kill femininity. If anything, there is a significant number of assigned female non-binary people who really, really want to express themselves in a feminine manner, but feel that they can't or don't because of the pressure from being misgendered or from being called a transtrender within your own community. Honestly, Arielle, if you want to come at me about how trans men or like assigned female non-binary people are killing their femininity, they're stabbing the woman inside them, and like that internalized misogyny or whatever, come talk to me about trans men wearing skirts, and go look at your buddy Calvin. I know he's not your friend anymore because you're too transphobic for even him at this point. Just take a fucking second to consider that nothing happens in a vacuum. This is not like a cut and dry situation. There's a lot of pressures that go into it. It's so ignorant. It's so ignorant. I am in the process of myself of being more willing to publicly express my femininity. I've been feminine the whole time. I usually just don't show it to you. I've been posting on Instagram my makeup looks lately, and that's powerful for me to do because I shouldn't. Like, that's the messaging that I've received, is that as a trans masculine person, if I want to be taken seriously and if I don't want to be misgendered, I'm not allowed to wear makeup. And it has been a process for me to reclaim that. It's mine. I can have it. It does not matter what other people say or think about it. Like, this idea that we're trying to kill femininity is so fucking stupid that I just can't anymore with this. This video is going to be hilarious to watch back later because I started out so nice. I hope that I've made my positions pretty clear. I think that I have handled this pretty well, considering all things. Wow, I've been recording for a long time though, because it takes such a long time to provide context for things. I'm being raw and vulnerable telling you about my transition, and she's just not ever going to listen. She just doesn't care. The best I can do is hope that someone from her audience will come see this video, because I'm a non-binary person who has major street cred. I've been out as non-binary probably since before Arielle even fucking knew what transgender meant. Making assumptions. My point is that this is kind of ridiculous. Being non-binary is complicated. It is neurological to the best that I can see. If people who are gender non-conforming feel comfortable calling themselves non-binary because they're figuring things out, like, I couldn't give a shit less. It doesn't hurt my legitimacy. It doesn't impact my ability to get medical care. My doctor is still gonna talk to me about my dysphoria, and we will figure shit out from there. This is not going to hurt anybody else. And just, again, that final point is ridiculous. It's so absurd to claim that trans masculine, like AFAB non-binary people are trying to kill femininity. They're just, it's so eerily similar to the kind of messaging that we were getting from that horrible book irreversible damage, like with the cover photo of a young girl with her fucking womb just missing, a hole in her body. This messaging is so toxic and so dangerous. It's so fucking upsetting sometimes. It's so ridiculous. Like, non-binary is sexist. I'll allow that some non-binary people might have a neurological, legitimate thing, like, oh, some non-binary people are probably diagnosed with gender dysphoria, but the most of them are just doing it for fun. None of your business. None of your business. And if they were hurting my community, I can defend myself. If gender non-conforming cisgender people are calling themselves non-binary because it makes them feel more comfortable, if I felt like that in any way damaged my validity as a trans person, that would be for me to make a video about. It's none of her goddamn business. I knew this was going to be an upsetting video. I still have a little bit of coffee left. So that's going to be all for me today. If you liked the video, please give me pretty analytics to look at and comments to read. You can find me on Patreon or PayPal if you'd like to tip me. You can always subscribe and ring the bell to get notified because I am not on any kind of schedule right now. And I really hope that you have an okay day. Bye. Thank you so much to my patrons for your ongoing support. I especially want to shout out Sean, Michelle Winter, R. Halverson, Annalise Friend, Frozen Summers, Sarah A., Suzanne Maynard, Wellington Marcus, Andrew Kenny, Athiette, Amanda B., Elizabeth Bartell, and Mr. Atheist.